What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 8 of the Sports Hour Plus with Miller and Watson. Um, wow. That is all I have to say. Just wow. This week, like what? This might be some of like the craziest weeks that I can remember in sports history. Like back to back to back to back on like giant groundbreaking news. Um, it's like crazy. And then on top of it, as you guys know, I work on Football Night America, so the pregame show for Sunday Night Football, and we have 3 games this week. It's the first time ever any major network has 3 games in one weekend. So, on top of every coach, famous coach ever being leaving their post, every player getting hurt, and people retiring, we have 3 games this weekend. So, it has just been a whirlwind of like 4 days. So, how are you? Are you breathing still? Because I know that every time my phone buzzes, I'm like, Jesus, what is this? Who retired now? Who got fired now?
It's been a good week for me. It's been crazy. Obviously, we both work in sports, so it's definitely been a crazy time. Obviously, like yesterday, I was texting you as the news broke that I called it. I scooped
You
our former
did.
colleague so with Pete Carroll. Everybody was shocked but me. They were all like, "What? He's leaving?" And I'm like, "Brother, results just didn't match. It's been 3 years and they haven't done anything. He's got to go." like, you know, um, we don't really know, like, because they're not really, the Seahawks are basically like, it seems like it was a retirement. I don't want to put forced retirement on, but it seems very reminiscent of what happened to one a person who's close to my heart as a former Syracuse alum, Jim Boeheim, because like it was like he was like, "I'm coming back," and then the school was like, "Nah, no, you're not." and like that seems like what happened with the Seahawks. It was like, "I want to come
It,
back," and the
it
Seahawks
was
were like,
just
"Nah."
so we were in a production meeting when the Vrabel news broke. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, and I like turned to my computer, and the kid sitting next to me was like, "Whoa!" And then our producer was like, "Oh my god, what just happened?" I was like, "Mike Vrabel just got fired." And then we were like, "Okay, like wow, like I thought that was going to be the craziest news that we got all week." And then no, it wasn't. It just kept spiraling and spiraling and spiraling. And I don't know, man. It's going to be an interesting. I mean, we're definitely going to talk about where we think these coaches are going to go. We're going to talk about, you know, where what coaches are going to slide into these spots that are empty. We'll talk about what are the best jobs that are out there right now. But what is your thoughts on this whole thing? What is your thoughts on the last like 3 days that do you think that the coaches that they all plan to do this around the same time? Like what I mean, obviously you have to release your coach before you can start finding a new one, right?
Right.
Um, and it seems like there's enough coaches going around that I think a lot of people probably would could say, well, why didn't they do trades? Why didn't they do anything like that? Like, what are your thoughts on that kind of stuff?
Well, I think like some of these coaches we called, like, I don't think you had to be a mind reader to know Ron Rivera was going. You called that like months ago. I'll give you
Yeah,
that
well,
credit for that. You know that area very, very well. That Nova that Nova area very well. Arthur Smith, I think everybody and their mom was calling for that one with his misuse of the assets that they have with London and my favorite from Texas, Bijan. I wanted him here in Philadelphia, but the hating Falcons didn't want that to happen. So, Vrabel was kind of a surprise, but not really. I think like a lot of us probably thought he probably wind up in New England. so,
well,
like,
I think a lot of people when they saw that Vrabel was fired, they were like, okay,
yeah,
Brady's or not Brady, Belichick's going to be gone in the next couple days.
yeah,
I think that was a thing that a lot of people were thinking because they were like, okay, well,
all right,
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah, so I think like the Vrabel thing, it seems like in Tennessee they needed a new voice. You can say that the AJ Brown trade and a bunch of other things that happened during his tenure probably spelled the end for him. Unfortunately, like obviously Belichick, we kind of knew about. Mike Florio basically was calling that from like August. So like no one's shocked there. Pete Carroll is probably the most surprising.
I
Not
think
to
so.
me.
I would
Not to me
say
because
not to you,
I got
but I think to the world in general. I
yeah.
think that one kind of came as, and that one is interesting in the fact that they aren't firing him. They're not. He was not going to be coaching anymore, but he's going to be working in the front office. Honestly, I kind of thought that that's what they were going to do um with
Belichick?
Rivera.
Oh,
No,
right.
Belichick I knew still wanted to coach. Rivera, I was getting the feeling that I kind of thought that they might have kept him as a player, and I wonder if they asked him if he wanted to do that, and maybe he said no.
Maybe.
But talk about so we're gonna obviously the ones that we're gonna talk about are Vrabel, Rivera, Smith, and then Carroll and Belichick were let go, mutually agreed to part ways, whatever,
Retired, whatever.
retired, whatever. So I think let's start with Arthur Smith, who I think was probably the least surprising of all of them, right?
Right.
Like
He was the first one canned. He
he
got
was
canned
got
on
fired at
Sunday.
like 12:01.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were still recording the podcast
Yeah.
when he got fired, which
Yeah.
says something. So he got fired before we were even done on Sunday.
Right. And Rivera got fired before that, right? He was like Sunday.
Rivera was Sunday as well. No, Rivera was like Monday morning. So
Okay.
Rivera was very early Monday morning. So those were the two that I think were unsurprising to a lot of people. I think that again, the surprising part with Rivera was that people like him as a person, and I think that that's where it gets tricky because he was a good person. He was there for a while. He helped a lot of those players. He's a cancer survivor, all those things that people really, I think the players have a lot of respect for him, but respect only goes so far.
Right.
You still have to win football games.
Right. And so like I think Rivera and Smith are gonna end up coordinators somewhere.
I
I
agree.
don't know where. Probably, I know some people because he is from that Eagles tree might want him as the DC in Philadelphia when that eventually opens up because Matt Patricia ain't it. He's not him. So like, I think he'll wind up probably somewhere in the NFC East as somebody's DC. He might wind up in Dallas because let's be real, what's his name is probably leaving and going to his old job in Seattle now that that's opened up. Some of this stuff I feel like is easy to call. Like,
yeah, some of it was kind of like when one happened, another you were like, okay.
Yeah, so like so I feel like those two will end up as obviously Rivera, his time as a coach, barring any like big changes, is probably done. I feel like Washington was probably his last chance as a coach, and that's no knock on him. It's just that obviously he's been around football forever. He's had like 3 coaching jobs, so it's like
I think it's just the reality of it. You get it's you can't be good forever. Stuff changes, and there are there are people that adapt, and there are people that aren't.
right.
And I'm going to tell this story real quick, and I wish for the life of me I could remember who told me this, where I heard this, and I really wish. I've been racking my brain all day, and I cannot remember it. And it ties in. It actually is it's a Belichick story, and it kind of ties into what we're talking about with Rivera. That God, I wish I could remember who said this, and I can't. Maybe when I say it, it'll spark your memory. But they were saying about players and coaches that can't change as the time grows. It goes into college coaches that can't deal with the NIL. It goes to coaches in the NFL.
Right.
Talking about how Bill was always himself, and he was like, "We're the Patriot way. This is how we do things." Blah 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 blah. He was rigid. He wouldn't change. He didn't change with the time. He still coaches the exact same way that he coached 23 years ago when he got hired by the Patriots.
Right.
Whereas Andy Reid is somebody who adapts. He sees, okay, all of my players are wearing Nikes, so he goes out and gets himself a pair of Nikes to wear on his feet on the sidelines. He's the kind of person that, they want to listen to this music. Okay, let's put this music on. Whereas, and he adapts, and I think that that's one of the reasons why he has continued to be such a good coach, even though he's getting older, is that he has that adaptability where I sometimes think that Bill's a little bit more rigid in his ways. And we were talking about this a while ago. I know other podcasts have talked about this too, but when it comes to places like Washington or the Patriots in the last few years, it's one thing to be that way and to be winning. But it's a whole other thing to be that way, to have no fun and be losing. And I think that
Right.
that's the problem in both those places, that they have these older coaches that aren't willing to change with their times, and they're not winning.
Right. And then like you especially in Rivera's case, you had like the coach in waiting there. I mean, we all know Washington, Josh Harris, he's also the Sixers owner and the New Jersey Devils owner. But I know him very fondly as the 76ers owner. This man will go through a very thorough process, but I believe he's learned from his mistakes with the Sixers and with the Devils that he'll find the best coach. And to be the best coach available for him right now, if Harbaugh and Belichick don't come, which they probably won't, just because, like, um, it seems like this is Bieniemy's job to lose. We've been talking about that a lot on this podcast. That basically, it's Bieniemy's job to lose, right?
No, it
If,
is.
if if that search ends and Bieniemy is not the coach, I will think something is wrong with Josh Harris because,
Do
like,
you think that
it's
Bieniemy
it's
will
red
leave?
it's readily made. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, we didn't think he would leave Kansas City, but I mean, he was like really the only positive with that team. Like that offense looked great. There was a lot of things that he had nothing to do with, like the fact that the quarterbacks all were trash, but like that wasn't his fault. He didn't roster build, but like I feel like it's pretty clear that Magic Johnson wants to win. The ownership group wants to win. So I feel like, and now we didn't really talk about this because it didn't happen when we podcasted. It didn't happen until Sunday. But low key, they got Bob Myers, who built a whole dynasty in Golden State. So we all know that that's what's going to happen. Like, if the best coach is there, Bob Myers will find him, and that's Eric Bieniemy, right?
Yeah.
Unless you can convince Harbaugh to come or Belichick to come, like,
Which would be kind of
yeah,
interesting, having both Harbaughs in the DMV. That would be
yeah,
kind of an interesting,
right.
but I think it's been proven that Harbaugh can win, and I think that Harbaugh, especially if his brother wins a Super Bowl this year, I think he's chasing that Super Bowl. I think he's going to try and go to the place that he feels like he has the best chance, and I don't
And
think
if
that's Washington right now.
and if he does go, to Washington, then to me that means that Caleb Williamson will be a Washington Commander. So like, that's not the only quarterback that speaks to him and Bieniemy is Caleb Williams. Like, and that's no knock on Drake May or Michael Penix, but I think like the quarterback that both Bieniemy, even though Michael Penix is like I'm not saying he is Patrick Mahomes, but if you watched him, he's very like Patrick Mahomes ish.
Yep.
So I think he is the best quarterback in this draft, right? Caleb, that's no knock on Caleb Williams, no knock on Drake May. It's just that, like, no one's really cared about Michael Penix since he left Indiana. He was showing this at Indiana. But like, he got to Washington, he got in front of the national stage. He tore up Alabama. He tore up that vaulted Texas defense. Like that, I think he is the best Like, when all is said and done with this upcoming draft, he will be the best quarterback in this
Yeah.
draft, followed closely by Caleb and then Drake May. So
Yeah.
like, I just think that like it's readily made for Bieniemy or Harbaugh to get their guy, and it'll probably either be Penix Jr. or Caleb. I mean,
Yep.
do won a game and was like, free my homie in the post interview. So like,
Yeah.
that man is very much ready. So I feel like Vrabel, as we said, will probably end up in New England.
Yep.
Belichick either DC because or LA. I feel like whoever doesn't get Belichick will then get Harbaugh. So it'll either be the Chargers or the Commanders. And wherever Belichick goes, he won't be the GM.
And I think I saw this tweet somewhere, and I was like, "Oh my god, that is the best definition I've ever seen." It was that GM Bill Belichick got Coach Belichick fired,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
so true."
Yeah, I mean, I would think now we've seen it in basketball, and now we've seen it a couple of times in football. Like, I mean, you can kind of do it in basketball, but like in football, I just think you can't be the GM and the coach, man. You just got to pick one.
You
You
can't.
just got to pick one.
There's just too much, and I just don't understand why you would want to. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I mean, I get it. When you're a narcissist, like, as a lot of these coaches are, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I think to
Right.
some extent, to work in professional sports the way that they do, you have to be
Right.
a narcissist.
Especially in football.
Yes, and I don't know. I don't know. But again, I say that about a lot of things. I'm like, I don't know why somebody would want to do that, and then people do it. So
Yeah. So where will they end up next? Let me run through it real quick. So Rivera and Smith on somebody's staff. Vrabel in New England. I think we both agree on that. He is a former Patriot.
yeah,
Um, Bieniemy is not on this list because he wasn't fired, but Bieniemy as the Washington coach, most likely. Um, Belichick, LA or DC. As I said, I prefer the coaches in that division very very not good. So that'll be a blow if if Belichick comes or Harbaugh comes, because then it goes from one competent coach in that division in Philadelphia, and I know people have arguments about that. Especially we'll get to that in a few minutes, but it goes from one competent coach to like two now,
yep.
and I'm like, oh Lord, no, we can't have that. So my fan perspective notwithstanding, I'm in the journalist hat right now. But like, I think Belichick will stay. He likes the Northeast for some reason. So I think he'll stay here. And the Jets job didn't open. The Buffalo Bills job might open. That'll be interesting. Obviously, like
I
no
think
one's
that
really.
depends on how far they get.
No, they're not going far. Like
Why?
they'll win. They'll win. They might win this. Who are they playing? Are they playing Miami again?
No, they're playing the. I think they're playing the Steelers
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
in
They'll.
in in Buffalo.
All right. They'll win that and then promptly get eliminated by by the Chiefs.
Yeah.
so like they're not like don't. This is not me hating on Buffalo. We both talked about our admiration for Bills Mafia, and even though I have buried Josh Allen, like that's only because like I just don't think you can be a top 5 quarterback and be surpassed by Jalen Hurts and a bunch of other quarterbacks who are supposedly you're better than, but they've gone
Mhm.
to a Super Bowl more recently than you and won their division and gotten farther.
Mhm.
So like I think that unless that job opens, maybe your Giants, or wouldn't that be funny? um, and
I
and
don't think Dable's going anywhere. I like Dable. I think he needs more time. I don't love the way that it ended with Wink because I love Wink Martindale. So
oh
that
yeah,
makes me really sad. But um, yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So Vrabel to New England, Belichick to LA or DC, and then like I said, Harbaugh to whichever team between LA and DC doesn't get Belichick.
okay.
So over to you.
I I think that Harbaugh's going to go out west. So I think Harbaugh's going to be with the Chargers.
Hmm.
I Vrabel is like I almost think it's a lock that
Hmm.
he's goes to New England.
Right.
Um, I I wouldn't be surprised if Belichick ended up with the Raiders because I
Mm.
don't think that the Raiders are smart enough. I think they should hire Antonio Pierce to be their head coach, but I just don't think they will. I think that they're just and I think that they will do anything they can to put butts in seats there, and I think bringing in Belichick would put butts in seats.
Hmm.
Um, but if he's not there, I have a sneaky suspicion, and I think this would be really interesting. What if he goes to college?
Ooh.
What if he goes to Alabama?
Yo, if he goes to Alabama, that would be the greatest non-trade ever.
Wouldn't
Like,
that? Like, what
yeah.
if he goes? He's like, I've done all I can do in professional sports. Like, let's go win a national championship.
You know what I'm thinking. And this is just two wild cards here. That as you were saying that, I think I'm in my Mike Florio bag. You know how this
Yeah.
happens on PFT and Chris Thompson's
I
podcast.
now
So
know how they get there. You start
yeah,
thinking of things and you're
yeah.
like, well, what if this? What if that?
What as I'm thinking about it, right? Two wild cards here, and they
Mhm.
both are Philadelphia related and Philadelphia adjacent. Let's
Mm.
think about this. Jacksonville. Now, I'm not pro firing Doug Peterson, but I mean, the worst collapse outside of Philadelphia might be what happened in Jacksonville. And as somebody who was a fan of Doug, he obviously brought the Super Bowl here. I just think that wouldn't it be so Belichickian, right? Now we don't know. Obviously, we have no sources on this. I don't work in Jacksonville. I don't think Morgan, you have any sources in Jacksonville unless you do, and text me in a minute. Um, but like I just think that there's rumors there that Chad Khan is very pissed off at how it went. He expected playoffs, it didn't happen. Feels like they're wasting sunshine. I mean, feel like they're wasting his prime. Uh, uh, you know, Trevor Lawrence's prime, which they are.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's Doug Peterson's fault. I just think that that's you know Christian Kirk got injured. There's a lot of injuries there. Like a lot of that wasn't really Doug Peterson, but I feel like it's gonna fall on Doug, and he'll once again be a scapegoat. And so, wouldn't it then be perfect if Doug Peterson loses his job, or if Nick Sirianni, which I don't think will happen ever, but if the Eagles don't do well and they wind up losing on Monday night,
Y'all fans
if
are crazy.
if that well look, and we're gonna get to it, but I have said on this podcast and said in my articles and everywhere that people will listen that Jeff Lurie and Howie Roseman, as great as both of them are very much too online. And by that I mean they're like me. They know a lot. They listen to everything. And as people who are multimillionaires, now I can do that. I'm not a multimillionaire and I don't own a team, right? So but as somebody who listens to that just for education and knowledge purposes to know what the crazy part of the Philadelphia fan base thinks, they and it's been on record that they listen to them a little too much,
Yeah.
the radio here, and so they'll make decisions based on what the crazy side of the Philadelphia fan base is saying. So that's why I'm I don't want it to happen, and nor do I think it will happen, because I just don't think you can justify firing a coach after he just went to a Super Bowl, and obviously some of this stuff was injuries. The NFL postseason is kind of dumb because if you make the Super Bowl, it ends in February. You're doing pre-workout stuff in March and April, and we know the Eagles were hammering that all year. So a lot of that is just the way the NFL season works out. It's kind of stupid, especially if you're the Super Bowl winning either one of the Super Bowl teams. And I feel like that's what also is affecting Kansas City and the Eagles now,
I
is that
agree.
tiredness of you go from the off season, you don't really have an off season because they're the two best teams, one of the top three teams in both of their conferences. You got to go get free agents. You got to do all the draft stuff. Somebody's got to work out the prospects. You don't really get an off season in the NFL, especially if you make the Super Bowl. So I feel what if? So now what if we're talking about Doug Peterson coming back to Philly as the OC, right? Or we're talking about Bill Belichick going to Jacksonville
Yeah.
and or to Philadelphia, because we already know that if there's any place of those are two options besides LA where that's ready made for him. All they really need is some coaching and discipline.
Yeah.
And obviously with both of those guys, with both of those teams, they're especially in Philly. I can't speak on Jacksonville, but they're very organized. And the one thing I know about Jeff Lurie, especially after this, he will definitely want to have say in OC and DC. He will make sure if there's no owner that can check Bill Belichick if he came to Philadelphia, it would definitely be Jeff Lurie, because Jeff Lurie would be like, "You're gonna do what I say when I say it. I want the Super Bowl, make it happen." That'll be how it goes. And you want to talk about butts and seats? I mean, Jacksonville, they
Yes.
need that. They need that
They
too.
need that bad.
And I am not calling for Nick Sirianni and Doug Peterson's job, but I think of those two, Doug Peterson is probably a little bit more precarious than Nick Sirianni. So I just feel like there's options for him. And wouldn't it be funny if he goes from having Tom Brady to Trevor? So wouldn't that be funny? If he wins and then gets to go and bring a Super Bowl to Jacksonville. So
I don't disagree with that.
yeah.
All right. So we have talked about all the coaches in the professional world that have retired. Now we're going to talk about possibly one of the greatest coaches, I mean, the greatest college coach of all time,
Right.
if not one up there with one of the greatest coaches of all time.
Well, you
Nick,
could say that both of the greatest coaches in
which is
college football,
retired, yeah.
yeah, college football played at Bama. Bear Bryant and Nick Saban.
Um, and Nick Saban's retired.
Yeah.
He kind of quashed any rumors of health concerns or family concerns today. He pretty much just said, I don't have the energy to sustain the whole season. It's too long. The recruiting process is too rigorous. I can't be what Alabama needs me to be right now, which I really respect. He's been there for many years. And a very
Most of my,
interesting
for
statistic.
most of my childhood. Sorry, go
Yes. No, for real.
ahead.
And an interesting statistic that I saw today was that not a single player that Nick Saban recruited ever left Alabama without a national championship ring.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow. Yeah,
Like
that is crazy.
wild.
Right.
So I think that it's a sad day for the sports world. I think a lot of people seem to have a lot of really amazing things to say about him. He's kind of football legend, football lore. There was a vigil outside of the Tuscaloosa. They have a statue of him outside of the stadium, and there was a vigil out there like he died. But
Well, something died. It was their championship hopes, but
yeah.
yeah.
And I think that this kind of came. I don't want to say it was a shock. Like he's an older guy, but he didn't do what Coach K of the basketball world did and did a whole year of retirement tour. He went and he didn't even go out on top. He didn't go out in a championship. He just knew this is I can't do it anymore, and I respect that.
Yeah, he kind of stole from the Jay Wright playbook, right? Like that's
Yes.
what Jay Wright did, right? Went a long time, got to the Final Four. I mean, it really wasn't obviously Villanova fans will probably say, "Hey, we had a harder road to that Final Four than Alabama did. All they had to do was beat Georgia." So, like, like something else that you called, and got to the Final Four. Obviously, it was a little bit less of an arduous road, but
Yes.
a very favorable comparison because Jay Wright did the same thing, right? Got to the Final Four or Final Two. I lost to Kansas, and then was like, I just can't do it no more. Like, I'd rather do something else. No family, no nothings. Just like I see where the winds are going in college basketball, and same with Nick Saban in college football. It was just like, we need somebody younger, somebody who has the energy for this, and he passed it off. Now, obviously, at Villanova, they kind of were prepared for that. It sounds like they were prepared in Alabama, but even still, they were a little off guard. I think they probably thought it would be next year and not this year. So I jokingly say that I'm the Alabama hater on this podcast. I don't pick them. Just because but I respect greatness, right? Nick Saban, he got a lot out of that program. He made Tuscaloosa, Alabama relevant and brought it back to places they haven't seen since the guy that neither one of us were alive to see. Bear Bryant was running around here. Another guy was statue outside that stadium. So he's made it relevant. 7 national titles. Like Alabama was a perennial football powerhouse.
Yep.
He made like I don't think I can point out Tuscaloosa, Alabama on the map, but if nothing else about that state, all about roll tide, roll tide and everything else. So all respect to the legend that is Nick Saban. I know people in my life, they jokingly say that you're a Nick Saban hater, and I tell them I don't hate Nick Saban or Alabama. I just think that it was, when you get the number one recruits, you're supposed to win, right? And these last few years, obviously, it's been a little harder with NIL and everything else. And Nick Saban has said a lot about NIL. I also think that some of this, he said it's not NIL. He did put a quote out there, but I do think in the back of his mind, some of it is that they can't get the number one recruits anymore because obviously you compare the state of Alabama and obviously Alabama. This is no disrespect to any of the other colleges there, but the University of Alabama is probably the best school in that state, and Alabama is a poorer state in comparison to Texas, where they were losing a lot of their recruits to Texas A&M because A&M had a lot of them oil tycoons that went there with a lot of Texas oil money who could get those recruits and spend in their NIL. And this is no knock on them. I know a lot of football players went to Alabama, but I mean, come on now, like that's multi-millionaires and oil barons with billions.
Yes.
So again, he said, and I want to be fair to Nick Saban, he said that that's not NIL and the recruiting is not why. But I think in the back of his mind, it was that, he was kind of tired of being like, hey, come on, we can win a championship 1 to 4 years, make it to the next guy, make this Tuscaloosa and everything. So he's great. He's got his 7 national titles. He can go right off to go make. This is what I think. This is not a question, but to me, I think that now he's retired. It seems like the ready-made ground for him is either go on ESPN or to somehow get elected as the new senator of Alabama. Because Tommy Tuberville did it, and I know to some of the people who watch this, we don't I don't know how Morgan feels about politics, but this is not a political podcast. But it seems like it's readily made for him to either go be on ESPN on our favorite show, College Game Day, or be the new senator from Alabama. And I will leave it at that because I don't vote in Alabama.
Very fair. Yeah, I think that kind of wraps up that. I mean, that's it. We'll see who's there next. Like I said, maybe Belichick. I don't really know. I think that they'll probably do a pretty thorough search. They probably already have some ideas. And there's a few candidates in-house that I'm sure, are looking at.
I got one for you. Dabo Swinney.
No, oh my God! Did you hear the people chanting yesterday? They were like, "Anyone but Dabo! Anyone but Dabo!"
I think a lot of that is because he took a few championships from them with Sunshine, Trevor Lawrence, and obviously Deshaun Watson. Yeah. So I just think that's what that is. But I feel like obviously we know it's not going to be Dan Lanning. The Oregon, as if they knew this was coming, had a video readily made to make sure that didn't happen, and probably promised him some Nike stock to make sure he didn't leave. I feel like it's going to be Dabo Swinney. My dark horse is James Franklin. I know some of my Penn State alums that listen to this podcast, and some of your friends who you brought up who are Penn Staters too. It's getting a little hot for him at Penn State. Not to me, but obviously I'm not an alum. But he's his seat's getting a little hot.
It is.
So, and he's kind of cheap to buy out, $6 million. So maybe he'll go there. So that may look good, but I think it's going to be either Dabo or James Franklin are the two most likely candidates.
Yeah.
And maybe maybe a shocker will be Bill Belichick. Maybe Doug Peterson will go down there, but somebody's gonna be very, very happy taking the Alabama job, and a lot of Alabama fans are gonna know what it's like to be a regular college football fan tailgating these games, having no idea if you're gonna win or not.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Yeah.
So, kind of keeping on the same mind track as with college football, national championship was Monday. Kind of a boring game.
We're both right on this one.
Yeah, we both. I mean, I don't know. There was a lot of defense, which isn't a bad thing. But first half was kind of exciting. It was kind of kept it close, going back and forth, and then at the end, Washington kind of had a chance to come back. But I don't know. Michael Penix, who is good, he's very, very good, didn't play well. It sucks that he played so well in the was it the Cotton Bowl? Is that what they were in?
Sugar Bowl.
No. Played so well in the Sugar Bowl, and then it just he couldn't find it. His receivers were dropping beautiful passes all over the place. I don't know if it was nerves. I don't know what it was, or if it was just that Michigan was the team of destiny this year.
It was that last dance energy. Like I said, man, it was that last dance, us against the world suspension energy. The state of Michigan doesn't really need that energy. They already have that energy. They perfected that energy. I think that what happened there was obviously Washington had a chance to really take that game over and tie it, And these refs were ACC refs, so I feel like as an alum of an ACC college, I can criticize these refs. So, like, that holding call, right? Again, Eagles fan complaining about a holding call. I feel like it's the Super Bowl all over again. But like that holding call that didn't get called on whichever receiver it was when Michael Penix threw the ball,
Yes,
and it was
yes.
clear he was clearly held, and they didn't call that, and then went on to call that against Washington, in on the next drive for Michigan, and then basically, JJ McCarthy connects with one of his running backs, and the game's over from there, right? So,
Yeah.
like, obviously it never should come down to that, but I feel like this is another weekend where we're complaining about refs.
We're talking about refs. I
Yeah.
mean, it's seeming to be across sports all the time now where every game it's something.
Right. But
It's
that does not take
frustrating.
away, yeah, very frustrating. But that does not take away from Michigan's
No.
domination.
They
Obviously, they
they
dominated. They
I don't
dominated
think they
that
were
game.
losing that game.
Right. They dominated that game through three quarters. The only quarter they really lost was the second quarter, where Washington had that "we ain't dead" energy, and they almost rode it to making this a close game. But I still think just the way JJ McCarthy was carving up Washington's defense like he was a serial killer in a slasher movie was just too poetic, man. Like, I still think Michael Penix is going to be the best draft pick, as I said earlier, in this draft.
Yeah.
But that last dance energy was strong. They literally had every Harbaugh family member in the building. So, like, it was just he
Did
wasn't
you see
losing.
the video of him kind
Crane.
of standing there like this, and then John came up and was like grabbed him, and he like looked up like angrily, and he was like, "Oh, it's you."
I'm all like, I literally was like, I wonder had they lost this game, would it have been like, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, for the Ravens, they get a week off. So it doesn't matter. This wouldn't have been a big story either way. But I'm happy. We're happy for the Harbaugh family. Another ring. They both came up on the Eagles coaching tree. So another ring for that family. And
He can finally sit at
yeah,
the big boy table, as
yeah.
he said.
and
Big boy
John might
table.
and John might add another one this year. So, like, we'll get to that in a minute with Wild Card Weekend.
Yes, we will.
But
I think we kind of just talked about this a little bit. I think we both are under the impression that Harbaugh is going to come to the NFL.
yes.
Michigan has some. I can't. They have to have a very short list. I'm sure they knew. If we know, they've known for longer.
Mhm.
I don't know who it's going to be, but I'm sure that they will announce it probably within the next week. College moves really fast, especially since recruiting has already started.
Right.
So
Right. So I feel like it'll either be the internal guy, the guy that was coaching while he was suspended,
yes,
or they'll find somebody else to pluck from the Big Ten. And again, I bring up Dabo or James Franklin just because it seems like Dabo wants a bigger football contract at Michigan.
yep,
It's like one of them places that will definitely pay a lot of money to get somebody who can get them another national title.
yep. I agree with you.
Yeah. All right, so now it's your bragging session. We both were wrong about this, but your Giants apparently did not want to lay down.
Yeah,
Did not
I
want
don't.
a top 5 pick. So
I was like, what the hell is going on? First of all, at one point, the Commanders and the Giants were winning, and I was like, what is going on? I think this has a lot more to say, no offense, about the Eagles than it does about the Giants. I think that some of the Giants players were definitely out there playing for a contract, playing for other teams to see that they could do well, playing for, last time playing in a Giants uniform, whatever it was.
Well, Saquon made that pretty clear. He was auditioning to be the Eagles' new running back.
Yeah.
Come on home, Saquon.
But I think the Eagles have some real problems. I mean, Jalen's finger was bad, and then he just sat there on the sidelines, and no one came up to him. He was like holding his finger up to people, and people are just walking by him. Like, your starting quarterback just dislocated his finger. His middle finger is sticking the wrong way, and no one is going to help him.
Well, I mean, they did, to be fair to him, they did cut from that camera angle as soon as they saw his finger. It was like,
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying I'm just like, and then you get injuries, and yes, you were playing down a few people, but I just don't know what happened. They were on fire, and I had faith in them. Again, I thought there was no way the Giants could win this game. But I mean, I don't know. You're the Eagles fan, so talk to me. Tell me how you're feeling right now.
I'm feeling, as my dad would say, that apparently I need to write an obituary come Monday. So like I am it's getting harder and harder to like keep my belief in the Eagles, but I will ride one more weekend with them, previewing the next segment. But I just think like I said earlier, they're exhausted. Unfortunately, like I said, the season really didn't give them any time to breathe. You win or lose the Super Bowl. They beat one curse by having a better record than the team that won the Super Bowl, but obviously exhaustion and injury bugs finally starts biting them. As I said last week, they had health. If there was nothing else, they had health in their favor. Then Jalen dislocates a finger. That crappy turf and the hip drop tackle screws over AJ Brown's knee. Devontae Smith wasn't even in the state. So like it was just a lot of stuff. I feel like for the Eagles, essentially, I don't believe this, but like essentially like Nick Sirianni, there will be a lot of changes, one way or the other. If nothing else, the OC and well, probably not the OC because like Jalen Hurts has a lot of say in this. The DC is definitely gone, but I think a lot of this depends on Jalen Hurts. Like if Howie or Jeff Lurie comes to
Hmm.
Jalen and asks him, "Hey,
What do you want
do
us
you
to
want,
do here?
what do you want us to do with Ryan Johnson?" Like, unless he gets a job, obviously, like just keeping the reporter hat on. He is interviewing with the Carolina Panthers. I believe the Chargers have requested to talk to him too. I'm pretty sure the Commanders, just because Josh Harris will do his due diligence, and there's no place he knows better than Newark, New Jersey, than Philadelphia. So I'm sure that he'll request to interview him too. But I feel like short of him getting a job, I think it's the writing's on the wall that the only way to me that he keeps the OC is if Jalen's like, I feel like I can grow with him. So I feel like they'll give Jalen the opportunity to either pick one, Brian Johnson or Nick Sirianni, and based on what he says, will depend on who's getting fired and who's staying. So like I think the DC, I think Matt Patricia's definitely gone. I think they'll clean out the house defensively there. I feel like they need to cut the cord here, and stop. Short of Vic Fangio himself being available after Miami flames out, like they need to get a new DC, get away from that tree. Like go back to somebody who can play man or zone defense.
Yep.
To me, like I grew up on the Jim Johnson blitz style, but I have always hated a blitzing heavy style just because I feel like it leaves you open in the slants and in the middle. Um, Especially when you have a GM that doesn't really value middle linebackers. So
Yep.
I feel like bringing a coach in here that blitzes a lot and how he's not changing his stance on middle linebackers will not work. So like I feel like you just need a coach whose whole thing is coverage, man, zone, a coverage specialist.
Yes.
I feel like maybe you can go and get uh Dennis Smith, the current DC in with the Ravens right now, who has them playing out of their mind. He was in Philly first, or I'm sorry, Denner Wilson, not Dennis Smith.
Mhm.
Um, he can come back here and probably do a lot. You'll have a decision with, obviously they'll probably keep Darius Slay, but you'll have a decision between the cornerbacks, Bradbury or Slay, or maybe both, and just get younger.
Yeah.
Like that top 10 pick, that top 20 pick will definitely be used defensively this year and not offensively. No matter how much I want Marvin Harrison Jr. to come home. It doesn't seem like that's gonna happen. But I feel like for the Eagles, like the Eagles right now, it's you're in your to get the comedy in here. Have you grew up on all that, like the '90s Nickelodeon show?
Yeah, I've seen
You
it.
know all that?
I really would. I'm like was not allowed to watch a lot of Nickelodeon when I was younger.
Oh Lord.
I know. I
Do
know.
you
My mom
remember?
was my mom was that kind of mom.
Do you remember Kel Mitchell's character, Coach Cretan. My life is pain.
Yes. Yes.
Everything is suffering. That feels like that's what it is for Nick Sirianni right now. Like life is pain. Oh my sad wasted life. Like that is Nick Sirianni right now because he's got to figure out how to get the Eagles to perform well. And essentially, again, I will say I don't believe he should lose his job, whether they perform well or get destroyed by Tampa. I mean, we literally just watched Tampa Bay score 9 points. I don't believe that they'll be able to surgically go through the Eagles defense like everybody else. Just because they should get Darius Slay back. They've got Avonte Maddox back. It seems like it's working for the Eagles to be healthy on defense and maybe not as healthy on offense. So maybe they'll run more. So maybe DeAndre Swift will earn that new contract. But like I'm of the mindset that the Eagles probably kind of just were like they gave up on that game just because I think they kind of figured that your hometown team wouldn't do them a service. So I think that like if they kind of knew, and if obviously this is hindsight, right? If any of us knew they were going to lay an egg against your Giants, they probably should have not played anybody and just
Yeah.
went out there
Well,
with the
pretty quickly they did that. Pretty
yeah.
quickly they took all their starters out and were like, we're not
Yeah,
going.
all it took was AJ Brown fumbling and getting injured, and they were like, "Yep, not our day. Let's go."
They're like,
like
yeah,
yeah.
not happening.
Yeah, so like I wish that he would have been smart enough because obviously we all knew, even I as the Cowboys person who hates them, like even I thought it would take like a miracle for your team to beat the Cowboys, and it was looking good. And then the Commanders were like, "Nah, we want the top two picks." So like we don't want to save Ron Rivera's job, right? So like it was kind of like that. But yeah, for the Eagles, they laid an egg, and the Giants took full advantage, and maybe Saquon Barkley will come home to his home state and be the Eagles' new running back. Again, I like DeAndre Swift, but I mean, if you got a chance to get Saquon Barkley, you go get Saquon Barkley. So like, I just think that I am of the mindset that at this point the Eagles are playing for their coaches somebody's career, right?
Yes.
It probably
Yep.
won't be Nick Sirianni, but like they're playing for their coach's career. Some of them, like Jason Kelsey, I don't think will retire, but Fletcher
I
Cox,
was going to ask you about that. What do you are you thinking you think he's going to be fine?
yeah,
Or not fine. He's not going to retire?
Jason Kelsey will probably stay. I think he may. I mean, like obviously they have kids. I know his wife Kylie has said that every year they go through this song and she didn't say song and dance. I'm saying that song and dance where like does he want to still love football? She has said that she wants him to not be a vegetable because obviously they have like I think about a 2, 3 year old and like a soon to be 1 year old. And obviously she just had another child. So they keep having girls. So like he has to be around for his kids. So like, I think like he'll probably give it one more year and then he'll retire. But as far as Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, I think this might be their last dance. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But the Eagles, either way, they'll win. They'll either win or lose. But either way, they got to play San Francisco. So if nothing else, they will probably. So I'm gonna preview this one. We might as well get here now. So I'm going to say since we're on this game that the Eagles will win. I think it'll be a lot closer and a lot more sweat than it needs to be. But I'm going to say 27-20 Eagles. Eagles and Buccaneers. And I will say, I have no faith because I just watched Tampa Bay score 9 points, have a baseball score. Like that they'll actually be able to score 20 plus points. But I feel like
Yeah, I don't have it as that. I have it
yeah.
13-17 Eagles.
Yes. Okay. So we're in the same ballpark. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, 27-20, because I just don't think I like Baker Mayfield. He's obviously been performing well. He deserves that new contract that's coming his way.
Yeah.
But I can't see them scoring more than 17 to 20 points. So 27-20 Eagles. And all of that. And the 27 depends on if AJ Brown plays. I don't think he'll miss this game. But 27
I don't think he'll miss this game either. But
Yes, but 27-20 Eagles, and if he does miss this game, then Devontae Smith, welcome to your chance to get. Obviously, they're going to re-sign him this year because
But to
his
get
rookie
paid,
contract is up. Him and Tyrese Maxey are about to be the new $100 million people in a minute. So like, I just think that this will be the DeAndre Swift, Devontae Smith game, and Jalen Hurts. Even though his finger may be in a split, he'll find a way to get enough touchdowns to make sure that this stays a thing. It's the perfect opponent for the Eagles. So I think the
I
Eagles,
think this is the best that they could have gotten. I
yes,
think that they're this is a good matchup for them. I don't know. It just really all depends on who wins this week for obviously who they play next week if they do win. But I also can see them.
oh,
Yeah, I
oh,
mean they lost. They lost to the Giants.
yeah.
Like I can see some crazy stuff happening.
I can see
Um,
them. I most certainly could see them lose, but like I said, I just think that like looking at the way the bracket's set up right now, I just think that if nothing else, they want to see San Fran again. And wouldn't it be perfect if the Eagles, who look dead throughout these last few weeks, get a chance to go back to San Fran and San Fran, obviously with both teams being very, very injured,
yep.
get a chance to go to San Fran and shut them up in their house. So like, I just think it would be perfect. I'm about maybe I'm like 20/80 that this happens. There's 20% of me that believes that they could totally lay an egg. But because they're playing Baker Mayfield and what's left of Mike Evans, I just think that the 80% logic side of me says that they're gonna win and it'll probably be closer than a lot of us like. And I have jury duty the next day. So I'm hoping it's a blowout or a snowstorm happens in Philly or something
Hey,
that
you
just
know what? Dan has been called for jury duty twice and has gotten out of it both times. They've like he's called the morning of and they've been like, "Nope, you don't have to come in."
Yeah, so I've already got it set up with the text and email chain. So I'm
Good.
hoping it's a blowout. It's a blowout, so I can write my article and get to bed, and then do my duty. I'm hoping I won't have to do it because obviously, I mean, I don't know if you had this conversation in your school, but they say that journalists don't ever get picked. So we'll see, we'll see.
Interesting. I've not
Yeah.
heard that.
That's what one of my professors said in our grad school. I don't know. I mean, it did turn out to be true the last time I had it. So we'll see. But yeah, so I'm picking the Eagles. You said, well, let's go to the AFC. It's Steelers, Bills. I
Bills.
think I think Bills, obviously. Even though Mike Tomlin is now, funny enough, the most tenured coach in the NFL right now, after everybody else has left, he's been there the longest.
That's
So
so
I
weird.
yeah, so Tomlin, even though he's done a heck of a job, I don't know what he did to coach up Mason Rudolph, but the Eagles need some of that. So yeah, so I think that Bills, obviously. We've got the Cowboys, and who are they playing? I should know this, but I don't.
Cowboys are playing
No, it's a lie. Let's do Lions Rams. Lions
Lions
Rams.
Rams.
I have to say, even though I love the Lions, the Rams are the most dangerous team in all of the playoffs, and I just feel like Matthew Stafford has that revenge on his mind. Um, I'd be happy to be wrong, but I think that Matthew Stafford is the better quarterback between him and Jared Goff. But if there's any game where Jared Goff will play out of his mind, it'll be this game. But I feel like the
Yeah.
Rams will surgically carve up the Lions defense, and the Rams will win. I'm gonna say 30. I'm gonna say 30-27.
Okay.
And once again, they try a 2-point conversion that doesn't work. Or it might work this time and they don't call a penalty. So either way, the score works 30-27, but I think it's the Rams for me.
I'm gonna say 21-28 Lions.
Okay. All right. We're on opposite sides there.
Yeah.
As far as the Cowboys and whoever they're playing, Cowboys, unfortunately. Oh, it's Cowboys Packers.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, that's why I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
remember it.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I would love to see the Packers beat the Cowboys.
yeah, of
Everybody
course
knows
we
for both
would.
of
We all
us, for
would. No,
both of
no
us,
one in the world likes them except
but
for their own fans.
I'll take the journalist hat off for a minute and totally say that I would love for Jordan Love, the Packers QB that we all love, because like the other two are just we'll get to both of those quarterbacks in a minute, but the other two are just raging jerks.
Yeah.
So like Jordan Love, I would love for him to be able to pull off the upset, and what a better way with McCarthy, who again has a doctorate's degree in clock mismanagement. I feel like that's a saying that we've coined. He has a doctorate's degree. They should call him Dr. McCarthy, because this man has a doctorate's degree in clock mismanagement, and we've seen it the last 3 to 4 years in the playoffs. So, but even though my fan heart wants to see it, I just don't see it happening. So I will once again, for the second straight week, pick the Cowboys, probably pretty handily. I'll say 40-20, because they're playing at home, and we all know, even though they're the ultimate front runners, that they are like a juggernaut. I don't know what happens. I don't know what the drugs that they shoot them up with. I don't know what they do, but somehow they play better. They play better at home. So 40-20 Cowboys.
It's a big wow. Yeah,
And
I have the Cowboys winning, but not by that much. I don't know.
are you believing in Jordan Love? Okay.
No, but I don't really believe in Dak either.
Me either, but again, when they play at home, it's like they're like God stepping off Mount Olympus when they play at home. So that's why I said 40-20, because that's usually
I'm gonna do 17-31. A weird
okay.
score, but
Okay. All right. Like we're not like the Sims podcast where we actually think that this was like we actually point by like who's right and what did
no,
anybody get
no.
the score right. So like yeah. So and then what do we AFC? We did the Bills. Who are the Chiefs? Chiefs and Dolphins.
Dolphins, which I think is gonna be probably the best game. Uh,
Probably.
um, but I mean, it is gonna be so effing cold.
Right.
So effing cold.
Right.
I mean, high of 9 degrees, and that's before wind chill.
Right. It's gonna feel like a day in Syracuse up
Yeah,
there. So
it's gonna be horrible.
like not 9 degrees is warm in comparison to it's probably going to be like -20 in Kansas
It's gonna
City.
be so cold.
And it's probably going to snow, and Taylor Swift will be there. Um,
And she'll look so cute.
yeah.
Probably whatever she wears.
So I'm picking the Chiefs off there. We're not dead energy. There's going to be a lot of we're not dead between the two teams that went to the Super Bowl last year because they're defending their crowns. So I have the Chiefs winning 30-23 touchdown. 30-23.
I have the Chiefs winning 40
Uh-oh.
40 to like 36. I have it like a close game.
Okay. Yeah, and look, all of that, and obviously, like because of the way Kansas City played, this isn't a question. But I mean, between the two teams that went to the Super Bowl, I feel like we have no faith in both of them. But I feel like I have more faith in the Eagles than I do the Chiefs, just because I feel like if the game gets tight, we've already seen this that the Chiefs receivers will find a way to drop it. Your
Yes.
favorite Kadarius Toney, and like I feel like Travis Kelce will probably get triple teamed, but if he does not and he finds a way to get open, then I feel like the Chiefs will win pretty handily.
Yeah, the only thing that I think could make it more interesting is if Waddle and Mostert play. I don't know if they are supposed to. If they both play, I think that can make it a little bit more interesting. But if they don't play, I don't see. It's just Hill out there.
Yeah.
And yes, Tyreek Hill does know how to play there. He played there for a while. So
Win the Super Bowl. So.
But I still see it as I still have the Chiefs winning either way.
Yeah. So what's the other game? We missed one, right? It's just 3-3, right?
No, I think it's 3 and the Monday game.
Well, we did Eagles.
No,
Bucks.
it's 2-3-1.
Okay.
So our games are the early game is Houston Browns.
That's why I said I know we missing one.
Yeah, Houston Browns.
Houston. I don't need nothing else to say about that than CJ Stroud is clearly the best quarterback in
You
that
don't
draft.
believe in Flacco?
Wants to. I do believe in Flacco, but I just think that like C.J. Stroud is back now, and like he's gonna find those receivers, and I just feel like I would love for Joe Flacco to take the Cleveland Browns up a notch, but I
Yeah.
just don't think that'll happen. So I'm going C.J. Stroud and D'Amico Ryans putting on a classic.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
I'm going 30. I'm going 31-24 Texans.
Okay. I can see that. All right. Those are the games. Oh, I have to pick my score?
Yeah.
Shoot.
And who you think gonna win?
No, I said the Texans. I said I think the
Uh,
Texans are
uh,
going to win. Like 9 to
oh, you think a defensive battle, huh?
17. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. You can see that. All right. Well, let's wrap this football thing up with our favorite. I told y'all we would get into the quarterbacks. Just when we thought Pat McAfee wouldn't bring him on because he didn't want a lawsuit,
I
he
thought he
comes.
was I
He shows
literally
up today.
yesterday. Literally yesterday they were like, "Yeah, he's done. He's not going to come on the podcast anymore." Oh shoot.
All right.
And then all of a sudden he's on again.
Today. I'm sure Mike Florio was very very shocked after he wrote an article talking about it. So I feel like to me, all right. So we kind of went over this last week, but for those of you who again either missed the podcast last week, first off, thank you for the support. As we both really do appreciate it. So Aaron Rodgers basically implied that Jimmy Kimmel would be on. This was all last week. We thought last week was a heck of a sports week, right? So last week he said, people don't want the list to come out. Basically implied that Jimmy Kimmel was going to be on Epstein's list. I don't really feel like short thing. Jeffrey Epstein, for those of you that don't know, killed himself. Noted rich predator / pedophile, whichever word you want to use, and killed himself in a federal prison. A lot of conspiracy theorists have fun with that. And now his list is coming out, as I said last week, and as Morgan and I went through, we really got into our common law bag last week, and a lot of y'all seem to love it. So like that the names you are seeing now are not the names of people who were the people assaulting the women.
Yes.
It are the people who he was known to hang out with, and they were asking the girls, "Hey, did you see Stephen Hawking on the island? Did you see, I don't think he's on the list either, but LeBron James, did you see?" I don't even want to throw his name in there because I don't want people to start attacking him because I said that. But obviously, that's just an example. He was not on the island. So like, Bill Clinton, blah blah blah. All these people that people are so excited to see if they're going to be on the list or not. So fast forward to today a day or two ago, Rodgers obviously. Okay, let me run through what Jimmy Kimmel said on Monday. So Jimmy Kimmel, they released it early because for those of you that don't know, they do not actually shoot these shows at 11:30 at night. They shoot them at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, 6:30 after the newscasts are done on all the networks, ABC, CBS, NBC. Little inside baseball there. So like they released, ABC released it early, and and Jimmy Kimmel went in. He kind of alluded to the fact that his family, his daughters, his wife, even his mailman are now hearing from these people who think he was on the list based on what Aaron Rodgers said last week. He also put a zinger in there that Aaron Rodgers had 2 A's on his report card and they were both at Aaron. I love that line. I gotta say, that was hilarious. And so, then Aaron kind of apologized, but didn't, as Jimmy Kimmel called, and said, like, he didn't mean to imply that, as if he was being coached by a lawyer on the background. It looked like a hostage video. Like he was like, I didn't mean to imply that. Obviously, he did not say he was sorry.
Why would he? Because that's him. He doesn't. He's not sorry.
Right. So like, he didn't say that, and then he got into a little bit. We don't know what he said. I don't know as we're taping this. I don't know what he said today.
No, I was working. I got a text from my fiance that was like, I thought you said that Aaron Rodgers was banned from being on the show, and I was like, he was. They said that yesterday, and all of it. And he was like, well, he's on the show today, and I was like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, so we don't really know what he said today. Obviously, Pat McAfee has changed his mind. This will not be the only time we talk about ESPN today. We're definitely going to get into what all of us were talking about this morning, which was Stephen A. Smith lambasting Jason Whitlock, but that's a little bit later because we got to get into some NBA. But I just want to say, as I said last week, Aaron Rodgers, what is there left to say? I feel like we exhausted this last week,
Yeah.
but Rodgers is is into those alternative. And a nice way of saying this because maybe eventually we'll cover him more than what we do now. But Aaron Rodgers is very he's into that alternative science. I guess is the best way of saying it, and alternative facts. So he's gonna get himself in trouble. He's kind of irresponsible with what he says. Obviously, there's beef there between him and Jimmy Kimmel, and he wouldn't imply the worst thing you can imply about a person. So maybe he'll be a little bit more careful about what he implies about Jimmy Kimmel. Now we will see. It's still to be determined, but it's Aaron Rodgers. He's a basket case. Like I'll try to think about a clean way of saying this, but based on what I said last week. But they got to work on responsibility, and Pat McAfee needs to work on the responsibility that you are on ESPN. There shouldn't be Disney on Disney crime, especially when you have Jimmy Kimmel, who's way more of a valuable asset to them than both of y'all. So I just think, honestly, that honestly, if you want my honest opinion on it, I think Aaron Rodgers and Pat McAfee are now in some dark deal that they both made to get the other one off of ESPN, just because I feel like now he is realizing that, when you're on ESPN and you're not just on YouTube and Twitch, you can't just be like, hey, such and such is a pedo, and say like, oh, he was just joking and think it's all okay, as Jimmy Kimmel said. So like, it's he's taking shots at ESPN executives.
Yep.
Jamel Hill has chimed in now and said like she said something like this on ESPN because apparently politics should stay out of sports, as Jimmy Pitaro said on ESPN, apparently does not apply to Pat McAfee and Aaron Rodgers, but it applies to everybody else on ESPN. So there's a lot of ESPN lambasting going on right now. So yeah, so I'm that's all I want to say on this. You got anything?
No, I don't. I don't. I just they make me so mad. I just want him to not talk. I just want him to go take his ayahuasca and play football. I really do at this point. Yeah, that's I can't. I'll get mad. I have nothing else to say on the matter.
All right, so the way we all started our week this week, unfortunately, John Morant, unfortunately got injured, tore his
Yep.
labrum.
Yep.
It was unfortunate for him just because he was just coming back off that 25-game suspension for, we don't want to say not for gun ownership, but for showing guns on social
Flashing
media.
guns on Instagram
Yeah,
Live
yeah.
for the second time.
For showing guns in the thing. And obviously there was some just more recent stuff that came out. He was not playing with a gun, but apparently there's this famous dance that's known down south in New Orleans and Tennessee, which hasn't made it up north yet,
No,
but
it is
probably
not.
will. But a lot of reporters got in trouble for not knowing that was a dance that is well known down south, where it looks like you're showing a gun, but it's not really a gun; it's just a dance motion. So I think a couple reporters got in trouble for not being culturally knowledgeable enough to know that.
Yeah.
So this is where, as reporters, we do get in trouble when we don't look up stuff. Not us, but when we don't look up stuff, and we're not hip enough to look it up and make sure that we're being culturally sensitive to what goes on. And obviously, as we both know, obviously this country is divided up in regions. Something that's popular in the Northeast might not be popular down south or on the West Coast. So this is one of those things where something is popular down south that hasn't made it throughout the whole country yet. So, but unfortunately, John Morant went down. And my reaction to this is it's pretty sad for the Grizzlies because they were just getting interesting again. And now it seems like everybody's injured. Marcus Smart is injured now. Jared Jackson's injured now. I'm sorry, Jaren Jackson, not Jared Jackson, is injured now. Like, This is one of them times for the Grizzlies where you just need to, and I know this is now frowned upon in the NBA with the new CBA, but this is when you just need to shut it all down and just hope for the first a top 3 pick in the NBA draft.
Yep.
Because John Morant is a star, as we talked about before on this podcast. He's
Hmm.
a star. He's the next NBA great. He just needs to get some better friends and stay off of social media showing guns. Like
Yeah.
if
We
you
were
got
both, and
guns, if you got guns, just put them away
yeah,
before you go
we
on
talked
social
about
media.
him when he first came back, and I really think that kind of all there is to say is that this sucks. We were hoping for him to be able to come back, kind of show what he was worth, show that um he had, I guess, changed, that he had was able to kind of control himself on and off the court, and it sucks. It
Right.
sucks that he's hurt. Hopefully he doesn't get himself into any trouble on social media while he's not on the court right now. But we're just praying for a speedy recovery for him,
Yes.
and hope that the Grizzlies are able to kind of put something together with all these injuries. And then
Right.
going off of that, Draymond Green,
Our favorite.
our favorite. Another one that we've talked about having some control issues,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Some
What do you
bodily
what do
issues.
you think? What are your
I
thoughts?
mean, we talked about this. I feel like the Warriors saw what was going on with their team.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was falling apart. You've got
Hmm. Well, it looks like Kylan may have frozen. So I think the biggest impact in all of this is, but you were frozen there for a little bit.
oh, okay. Thank you. So
Yeah.
Draymond, where did I freeze at? I'm sorry.
You froze maybe about a minute and a half ago.
Okay. So, so Draymond Green is coming back. Live show, folks. The Draymond, I apologize.
Live TV, folks.
So Draymond Green is coming back. And I just feel like it's going to. I feel like he's only coming back because the Warriors are looking around and seeing that they need a shot in
Yes.
the arm. Jonathan Kuminga. Neither one of us are the Warriors reporters, but we've all seen what's going on. The younger players, specifically Jonathan Kuminga, um, wants a trade. He said that. That's been reported now. Clay Thompson is slumping. Seems like Andrew Wiggins might be out of there soon too. And now Draymond Green is coming back to an even bigger mess than when he left. And I just feel like, we were talking about it off air, how Draymond is on record saying that he thought about retirement. And I'm all like, bro, all they told you to do was control yourself. Like, go get some anger management. Stop randomly punching European players and darker skinned black players. And that's all they asked you to do was for some self control. And you were like, nah, I'm good. I'd rather retire. Like, what's wrong with you?
You're a
Like,
grown ass man. Like, get
like,
yourself together, dude. What is
like, what's
going
wrong with you? Like, we just talked about a positive story for the state of Michigan, like Michigan winning their first championship in football in a while. And like, now I got to talk about the pride of Flint, Michigan, Draymond Green, like, right? And obviously, this is no knock on him as a personally, right? But just professionally, like, he finds some way to harm his fellow players. Like, and hopefully he has learned the lesson. He says he has. We will see. I'm one of those people. Actions speak louder than words. So like I said, I just feel like with with the with with the Warriors that it's going to be a crazy time for them. But you have Steph Curry, and now Draymond Green. But I turned this into a Warriors thing. But if Draymond Green will show to me, and I don't care about the technical fouls, I'm not a Warriors fan. That doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah.
All players are emotional. They get texts, and he's known for getting texts. So like I'm not gonna be one of those people that's all like, oh my God, Draymond Green got a tech. Look, he's the same guy before he left. What'll show that to me is if somebody gets tangled up with him and he doesn't immediately throw them to the ground and start a whole fight. Like
Yeah.
if he's not talking, obviously it's basketball. People talk trash. We've all played basketball before, whether in organized or unorganized settings. So we all know that basketball is one of the most trash talkiest sports. Yeah, talkiest is not a word, but I just made that up.
It's a
Trash
great word. It's a
talkiest
great word.
sports.
Not a Simpsonism, it's a Watsonism. It's great.
Right, yeah, lots of them. So the trash talkiest word ever. So I just heard from one of my, that's why I stopped for a minute. I just heard from one of my Warriors fan friends just messaged me talking about how I've been plotting on Klay Thompson for a while. Like I have wanted him as a Sixer in full disclosure. But
Fair.
that doesn't seem like it's going to happen. So like not this year, maybe this off season. But but yeah, like so Draymond Green, he'll show me, for me, actions speak louder than words. So
Yeah.
if he gets tangled up and he doesn't immediately throw somebody to the ground and choke him, I'll be all right. As a former basketball player myself, didn't make it to the level of his level, but like, we all know, we play basketball in gym class. Getting tangled up happens. Going down for offensive rebounds, you'll get the elbow to the stomach or to the face, depending on how tall or short you are. Like, I would just say that the paint is a, I think Morgan, you played it in gym class or in college. Like, the paint is a place that soft people don't belong. So like, the paint
I
is
stayed
not.
on the outside. When I played point guard.
Yeah,
That was for the much taller girls. I stayed on the outside and I shot threes.
yeah. So like,
How I played.
yeah, the paint is not for the soft at heart. So like that's why I said like Draymond Green is a power forward. He's a paint player, very emotional. The power forwards and the centers. I know I have Joel Embiid in my city, so very, very, very emotional people. Those forwards and centers. So like as far as Draymond Green, for me, actions speak louder than words. So I will look forward to him hopefully having a rest of the season of not getting in trouble and not punching or elbowing or doing anything that will make it to front page news or make it to the podcast of the company of the company. So I will be very, very happy if that doesn't happen. But I know it's Draymond, so he'll do something. Just hoping it's not something that shows he may not have learned his lesson.
Yeah, I agree. So keeping on with basketball, what's going on? Man, they're
ah,
slumping. What's happening?
like I said, Dream. Not Draymond.
Philly is struggling right now.
Hey,
How are
yeah.
you? Are you okay?
I'm good. I've got my reporter hat on. My fan
Okay.
side is a little worried, but like, no, I just feel like this slump happened when Joel Embiid went down. He obviously bumped knees. Some people would argue he didn't need to be in that game. They chased the record a little bit to tie Will Chamberlain, and then he bumped knees with Julius Randle. His knee is swelling, but apparently the swelling is down. So for my Sixers fans, it's looking very likely that he might play tomorrow. I'm not Ramona Shelburne. I'm not reporting a thing here, but the sources that I've seen and the sources that are widely available are saying that it is looking good, barring a setback, that he will play tomorrow against the Kings. So that's just what it is, right? The Sixers, it was looking good, and then the Sixers finally got bit with the injury bug. DeAnthony Melton came back. Joel Embiid should be back in these next few days. If he doesn't play tomorrow, he'll probably play on Monday for the Martin Luther King game against your Wizards. So I'm so,
Couldn't tell you one person on the team right now.
so they will be fine.
I'm sure they'll
Again,
win against the Wizards. That
yeah,
they don't seem to ever win, so
yeah,
they'll probably
yeah.
be fine there.
So I just feel like this will be a great matchup. It's another game against an explosive backcourt. You've got the Aaron Fox and Malik Monk coming to
Yeah,
town. So I feel like now that they have DeAnthony Melton back, they'll be better defensively. If Joel Embiid comes back, they'll definitely have the presence that's been missing. But again, with the Sixers, it's that third scorer right now. They're being associated with fellow clutch client DeJounte Murray, right, in Atlanta. It's DeJounte Murray now. It's Zach LaVine. It's Pascal Siakam. I feel like they'll get one of those three players. I don't necessarily know if I want DeJounte Murray just because he's more of a one-way player than a two-way player, but he is another ball handler. He is a guy that shoots it from Erie Avenue here in Philly. Like he's one of those people. He comes out of the bus ready to shoot. So like it would definitely add another shooter, another guy who can move without the ball. So that would be perfect. But for me, I just think that they need somebody who can play defense and who can shoot and who can handle the ball. Now that Murray does fit that description. He's okay at defense. It might be Zach LaVine. I don't really know. Like from what I understand from covering the Sixers and what other reporters have said, and Jake Fletcher at Yahoo just came out with something too, saying that the Sixers, they're looking, like I said last week, to make one of those like have about 109 to 110 million dollars to spend, which will put them at the second in off-season spending this year. So they're looking to not have their flex capability restricted.
Yeah.
So like I would look that if a big move is available, Daryl Morey will make it, but he said that he does not want to restrict the future flexibility of this team. So I feel like this year and next year you will see the Sixers being very, very active. As far as the NBA updates is concerned, like I said, Warriors, the Celtics are 18-0 at home. I don't know.
Well, we're waiting for Kylan to get back. It looks like he has frozen again. When he gets back, we're going to do our favorite segment. He's not him, she's not her. But we are waiting. This is live TV, folks. Like this is what happens sometimes when there are storms or stuff like that because we run on Wi-Fi, and when the Wi-Fi goes out, and there he's gone. So it's just me. I will do my he's not him or she's not her while he's gone, and I'm gonna try and figure out how to do this, guys. So I have to present, and I'm trying to see if I can do this. You're back. All right. I was about to start my he's not him because I was like, I don't know where he is. But
yeah, I don't know what's going on with the internet right now. But
it is okay. I think let's just start he's not him, she's not her. We'll get out in the next couple minutes because we're having some internet issues anyway.
yeah.
I already told you mine beforehand, but I'm going to do it again. I'm trying to share it. So I'm just going to share my screen for a hot second because I want you guys to see this. So this is
Can you share it?
yeah, can you see it?
Hold on.
Yes. Okay. So this is my he's not him, she's not her, they're not them, whoever. It is whoever thought that just after he retired or he left the Patriots, this was a good tweet to put up. Bill Belichick will have 0 rings as a head coach if it wasn't for Tom Brady. True or false? What? That is asinine. That is the dumbest post, FanDuel. Like, I know that you're just trying to get engagement and you're just trying to get clicks, but like, come on. Come on. What are we doing here?
Shout
Do
out.
something better.
Shout out to the social media person.
Like, and I'm sure and again, I do social for NBC, so I'm sure it's like somebody that's just like me that was like, this will get clicks, but like all of the comments are like, what are you doing? Like absolutely false. Who cares? Say it's about celebrating Tom, like all this stuff. So that's all I wanted to share. That's all mine. But that's all I had for today because that made me so mad today when I saw it. I was like, let the man, I'm not even a Patriots fan. You know that. You know I'm a Giants fan. Like,
Right.
let the man live.
Yeah, so for me, I've got a couple. My first one, Brett Favre. Like I said, we're gonna keep the theme of me killing the Green Bay quarterback going. So, for me, it's definitely him, robbing or as legally defrauding because he didn't rob anybody, but technically he did defrauding the state of Mississippi, the poorest state in this country, out of $77 million just for a volleyball stadium. And I'm sure you're rich enough that you could have wrote a check for that. You didn't need to defraud the welfare system of Mississippi for that. And so an update there, because I know some people have been like, well, what's going on with that? So they still are. I think it's at a separate case, but it's important for his case. Apparently, there was a concussion drug, if you remember, Morgan, that
Yeah.
he was championing, and so that is there's a deposition for his partner where that will be happening either today or tomorrow, and so he'll be deposed and he'll talk about what happened with that. How much did Brett Favre pocket? What did he do with the money? What happened to the however much they got during fundraising? For those of you that don't know, when you're starting a new organization, you do some type of fundraising where like you put a prospectus plan. I am not a finance major, but I know enough finance majors. I have an accountant father and accountant friends who have told me this. You put out a prospectus, you go all through, like you get some bidders and stuff and investors and everything to do all that. And so they're wondering what happened to the money. Why didn't he pay for taxes? Blah, 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 blah. So that's the Brett Favre update. Also, there should be some things happening with that 77 million case, whether he could go to jail or not. I know that they say he could spend up to 10 to 14 years in jail for defrauding the state of $77 million. And there's no way the governor of Mississippi, he's trying to claim ignorance, but there's no way you didn't know that $77 million just magically went missing from your state, the poorest state in the country. Come on now. but yeah, that's my he's not him. My they aren't them. We didn't really get to this because of internet issues and just because like we really went heavy on the football. But for those of you that have not seen or haven't heard, Jason Whitlock and Stephen A. Smith. Now, Stephen A. Smith is one of my heroes, journalism heroes. I believe he's also a journalism, if not a hero, a journalism model for Morgan as well. I don't want to speak for you, but I believe we talked about that.
I think he's a journalism model for anybody who wants to go into the field of journalism. Yeah. If that makes sense,
Yeah. So like
most people.
Yeah, but we saw him out of character yesterday. He did 59 minutes. I'll call it the sports journalism Sermon on the Mount, where he went in on Jason Whitlock, said a lot of things about Jason Whitlock. And, I heard a joke that like Cat Williams released his energy because it was just last week that he was calling out people. And for those of you that don't know what happened, so earlier this week, Jason Whitlock basically called Stephen A. Smith a sports journalism plant because Kevin Hart called, because Cat Williams called Kevin Hart a plant. And so that's a famous thing when you really want to insult somebody, call them a plant. And so like that happened. And then he also came at his integrity. Now, for those of you non-journalists, that's all we really have in this industry is our word and our integrity. So when you come at somebody's integrity and the journalism world, it's kind of a big thing. And so like that, this is what led to, it was the integrity thing. Like you said, he didn't write his own memoir. He kind of labeled what happens. For those of you rap people, hip hop did just celebrate 50 years just this past year. But for those of you who are big rap fans, a lot of this stuff, Kendrick Lamar and Drake had this beef where Kendrick basically said, hey, Drake has a ghostwriter. He doesn't write his raps, blah, blah, blah. That's basically what Jason Whitlock said about those of you that aren't big in the journalism field. You don't know what this beef is. This is basically what Whitlock said about Stephen A. Smith. He did not write his own memoir. He got somebody to ghostwrite it, blah, 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 blah. And for those of you that know Stephen A. Smith's history, he spent a long time here in Philly, about 10 years as a columnist at the Philadelphia Inquirer before he made it to ESPN. And so I won't go. We don't have the clips, but essentially he came at Whitlock a lot. I'm of the belief that like when you're of a certain station, you shouldn't come at somebody like that. You shouldn't punch down. But in this case, because of who it is, and because this guy, Whitlock, is very famous for coming at people, both black and white, who are specifically more black people, but he comes at everybody who he feels is better than him or going farther in the industry. And, for fear of, I think this podcast is too medium for him to come at, but just in case, this is a reflection of me. It doesn't reflect Morgan. any companies or anything associated with us. So if you want to come at me at Kylan W Watson. Don't really matter. So like so I want all the smoke. So like so they came at each other, and this is why I say they not them. Like I love Stephen A. Smith, but I think he went a little too far. I know he checked him, he put him in his place. He says he's not going to do it no more. But I just, I don't really like seeing that. Even Whitlock, he deserves all the negative energy. And there's been multiple sports reporters, people that worked at ESPN, people who don't, who have said, yeah, he's the devil incarnate, blah blah blah. Everything Stephen A. Smith said is very true. So like, it seems like he's not a good person. This is outside. I've never met him. Morgan, I don't think you've met him. So like, I've never met him. So like, that's what it is. That's my they aren't them, and a low key one, ESPN, just because like all of this is because of different decisions ESPN has made and has done and put people at it at all. And this is not no knock on ESPN. I know a couple of people who are there now, PAs, reporters that do different things. They do great work. There's no knock on them, but it just seems like a lot of this stuff is ESPN's chickens coming home to roost. So like so that's my they aren't them.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we just went an hour and a half, which we keep saying we're going to try and keep it to an hour, and then crazy stuff starts happening and we have to talk for longer. We will see you guys hopefully next week. We'll talk all of the playoff games that happen. Maybe hit some college basketball. We haven't talked that in a few weeks.
We do need to
shout out,
about
shout
that.
out UConn. Big win last night over Xavier. And I got to talk Caitlin Clark. She just had her 4th triple-double of the season last night, which is craziness. She is her.
And Syracuse beat BC. They are them.
There you go. There you go. So send us notes on anything that you guys want us to hit. Of course, we'll cover all the playoff games that happen this weekend, cover the lineups for next weekend. And hey, check out NBC's first ever streaming playoff game on Saturday night that I'll be working. Yeah, so have a great weekend. Have a great week. Stay safe, stay warm. If you are in that part of the country where it is supposed to be 9 degrees, and hope nobody's house has got too flooded with all this raining. So peace out, guys.
See y'all.